and its family, but they lost. It just didn't happen. And I'm sure why. Because of our people.
It's now a little after 8 a.m. Thursday in Moscow. Gorbachev is scheduled to address the Russian Federation Parliament and the world in about 2 hours. Tim Ewart has more on Wednesday's dramatic events.
It was a day of momentous and rapidly changing events in Moscow. Suddenly, in mid-afternoon, troops who barely 60 hours earlier had poured into Red Square and surrounded the Kremlin were ordered back to their barracks. "Is that it?" shouted a bystander. "That's it," a soldier replied. The mood of drama was reflected at Boris Yeltsin's Russian parliament, where loyalist tanks were still standing guard, but cheering crowds sensed the changing atmosphere. Inside, MPs gathered under heavy security for what was surely their most extraordinary session. Mr. Yeltsin, defiant from the start, first revealed KGB boss Vladimir Khrushchev had invited him to the Crimea to meet Mr. Gorbachev. Mr. Yeltsin said no, but agreed to send others in his place. Then came the announcement that all 8 leaders of the coup were trying to leave Moscow.
The whole group of those adventurers, members of the so-called committee, they've all left for the airport.
It caused an instant buzz of excitement that the coup really was over. On the Leningradsky highway nearby, the army exodus continued, a huge convoy of military vehicles heading for home. Some were clearly anxious to get going. Few of these soldiers had displayed much appetite for confronting their own people. They'd arrived amid fears of a bloodbath. They left with flowers in their gun barrels and on their faces. There were gifts of food from the locals and the belief. At the Russian parliament tonight, they celebrated the end of the coup to the sound of folk music. "I think it was Gorbachev's fault," said this woman. "He was mixing with the wrong people." And this man vowed, "We won't rest until they've arrested the plotters." But for most, the hunt for the guilty seemed less important than the joy at what was seen as a victory for democracy. Tim Ewart, Moscow.
The 8 coup leaders appear to be in deep trouble. A Russian legislator said all of them have been arrested, but he did not give details. Gorbachev told the French press agency, and the head of the emergency committee, Vice President Gennady Yanayev, is in Moscow, but it's unclear whether he's under arrest. The Soviet news agency Interfax reports 4 members who flew to the Crimea to talk with Gorbachev have been arrested. They are Defense Minister Dmitry Yazov, KGB Chief Vladimir Khrushchev, Defense Committee member Oleg Baklanov, and Industrial Enterprise Chairman Alexander Tizanokov. Also reportedly arrested, Interior Minister Boris Pugo. Soviet Foreign Minister Alexander Bezmernik denounced the coup as unconstitutional. At a Moscow news conference, he also defended his silence during the 60-hour crisis. Bezmernik said he stayed out of the public eye because he was sick, and he says he tried to contact Gorbachev but couldn't. President Bush says the coup leaders chose to challenge something far more powerful than tanks: democracy's hold on the Soviet people. After several failed attempts to contact President Gorbachev, Mr. Bush received a call from him Wednesday at his vacation retreat in Kennebunkport, Maine. President Bush says Gorbachev was very emotional in thanking the United States for its support, and the Soviet president assured him constitutional authorities are again fully in charge. Mr. Bush says U.S.-Soviet relations will emerge strong from this experience.
I think it's a good day for you, because I don't think that the fears that some of us have had about, many people have had actually, about right-wing takeovers will no longer be as extant. They tried and they failed.
President Bush is dismissing suggestions Gorbachev helped stage the coup himself. Secretary of State James Baker got word of the coup's failure at a NATO conference in Brussels. He rejected suggestions the West may have failed Gorbachev by not answering his call for massive economic aid. But he didn't rule out a more generous U.S. aid plan than was agreed to before Gorbachev's temporary ouster. A direct line to Moscow apparently didn't keep the Soviet embassy in Washington any more informed than the rest of us. Jill Doherty reports.
They may have a forest of antennas on the roof, but when it comes to breaking developments in Moscow, the Soviet embassy is saying it's in the dark as much as anyone else.
Due to lack of information, or official information, we don't have much to say.
Извините, пожалуйста. The phone line to the Soviet press office in Washington was constantly busy, the press attaché finally responding to reporters who showed up at the embassy gates.
Obviously, everybody in this embassy, including the ambassador and the entire staff, we were concerned about the events unveiling in our country. And in this sense, all of us were trying to do our best to perform our official duties. And the basic task was to make sure that no damage, no harm is done to our bilateral relations with the United States of America.
Other Soviet embassy staff were even more closed-mouthed. No comment when asked what they thought about Gorbachev's restoration to power. One employee managed a cryptic reply. Gorbachev, he said, always had remained president. Another Soviet citizen working with U.S. companies in Moscow said it was hard to predict the post-coup situation in his country. I don't think Gorbachev will be any stronger, he said, but Yeltsin will be. What's my reaction? Back to normalcy. So said one embassy political officer, adding he was getting his information from U.S. TV.
От CNN, только от CNN.
Freedom! 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 But on the streets in front of the Soviet embassy, no reticence among Lithuanian Americans to say what's on their minds. They want Lithuania out of the Soviet Union, with or without Mikhail Gorbachev at the helm. Jill Doherty, CNN, Washington.
Mikhail Gorbachev said the party's over for a Soviet communist as he quits as party chief. For Soviet citizens, the party may be just getting started as they remove symbols of communism from their streets. And in the United States, still no end to a prison standoff in Alabama. CNN Headline News, I'm Tori Atali. Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev no longer heads the Communist Party, but the move comes by choice. Just days after surviving a coup attempt, Mr. Gorbachev decided Saturday it's time to step down as chief of the Communist Party. He also called on the party's leadership to dissolve itself, saying many top members supported the failed coup against his government. Gorbachev crippled the party financially, turning its finances over to the parliament. Gorbachev remains a member of the Communist Party. The White House has issued a brief statement calling Gorbachev's announcement a step forward in the reform process. While teeing off with golf pro Arnold Palmer, President Bush suggested the hardline coup has been a blessing in disguise. He says it has removed some of the roadblocks to economic reform in the USSR. But he isn't yet talking about increased assistance to jumpstart the country's finances. Muscovites apparently are taking out their anger toward the Communist Party on a statue of Lenin. Saturday, they defaced the statue in October Square with graffiti. However, they were unable to topple it from its platform. Citizens anxiously are awaiting help from a large crane. Similar statues of Lenin have been destroyed in several Soviet republics. Earlier Saturday, the focus of Soviet emotions was on fallen heroes, not fallen icons. Robert Moore has that.
It was officially the funeral of the 3 young Muscovites who had died defending the city during the military coup. But unofficially, many said, it was the funeral for a political system that is visibly disintegrating. President Gorbachev paid his respects. He owes his political life to Moscow's resistance to the military takeover. He awarded the victims the country's top honor, each becoming a hero of the Soviet Union. He told the crowd that the conspirators would be shown no forgiveness. He spoke slowly and with emotion. It is difficult, he said, to speak while looking into these young faces. But allow me on behalf of the country, on behalf of all Russians, to bow low before these young people. Those on the streets made no effort to hide their emotions.